Hope that you are enjoying the video series. In our last video, we detailed about creating our first project in Visual Studio. All the videos so far uploaded are added to the playlist, and you can watch the same by clicking on the link given on top of this video. In this video, we will be discussing about NUnit attributes and how it is helping us for test design with some examples. So those who want to dive deeper into NUnit attributes as a beginner can follow this video. We won't be covering anything apart from the basics. Those who are beginners can watch this video in order to understand how the NUnit attributes are helping us to design the test. Those who haven't subscribed the channel, kindly subscribe the channel. Let's move into our session. What's the relevance of attributes? Attributes in NUnit are available in order to manage our test. We are having different features available within NUnit which will help us to design our test effectively. Also, the attributes are available in order to serialize our test, add category description to our test. If you want to read data from external source, attributes are available for that as well, which will support for that. So attributes are available in wide range for different purpose, but we do not have to look into all of this at this point of time. In order to help our test design, there are few attributes which help us very much. We will look into that alone for the time being. So what is the importance of these attributes? I can explain easily with an example. If you consider an application where you want to log into the application and you have to do some tests, there are different ways by which we can design the test. Suppose if you want to log in and log out before each and every test, how can we achieve that? We don't want to add the code snippet for log in and log out at every time whenever we create a test case, right? We need something that is automated in order to help us with that. So any activities that needs to happen before our test and after our test, if there is something, it would be really helpful, right? So attributes like SetUp and TearDown are those ones which will help us to achieve the same. And there are certain other attributes like OneTimeTearDown and OneTimeSetUp, which will also help us to have an activity done one time before our test methods. So these are the basics ones which we are going to cover today, and we will also see some examples with the same in order to understand more. Also, we will cover one more important topic called debugging our test. So let's look into all those things. So I will take you through a couple of slides first, and then we will go to the Visual Studio. So test attribute, it marks a test method. So whenever we want to tell the Visual Studio that this is our test method, we can have test attribute in place. If we mark it as asynchronous, we can have it to wait for our method to complete before recording the result. So we won't look into that at this point of time, but simply understand that we are having a asynchronous version of that as well. So when we add test as our attribute, NUnit marks it as a test. That particular method we are marking it as test will get marked as a test, and you can also see that it is getting discovered in the Visual Studio, right? So next one is text fixture. Text fixture makes the class which contains a test. So if you want to tell the NUnit or the Visual Studio engine that this is the class which is going to have all the tests, we can use text fixture, and it is an optional stuff. We need not have to add it. If we are having test setup and all those things, by default it will identify that particular class as the text fixture. Next one is setup. So setup, if we want to have any action to be done before every method, suppose if we are having 100 tests, but before each one of the tests we want to do some action, and after the test we have to do some action, then we can use setup. So if we use this attribute and if we have any method declared under it, what it means is that before every test it will get executed first and then it will go to our test. And if there is teardown, means after every test that particular method will get executed. And OneTimeSetUp means if you want to do any action once prior to executing any of your tests in a fixture, you can use OneTimeSetUp. And OneTimeTearDown means any action that you want to execute after all your tests, that is one time, then you can use OneTimeTearDown attribute. Now let's go to the Visual Studio screen and see how all these things work. So you can see the Visual Studio screen now. This is the project that we have created last time. You can create a new project by clicking File, New, and opting for a NUnit project. You also need to add the dependencies, those packages required for Selenium WebDriver as well as for Chrome driver, and you can have this code snippets given here in order to create this test. So you can see that by default whenever we create the NUnit test, you can see that setup as well as test attributes are appearing. I copy pasted this code snippet one more time here with another method name, second method, in order to demonstrate the working of this attribute. So you can see here that two methods are identified by the Visual Studio, and I'm going to print a statement in our console. So in order to do that, you can type CW and you can tap 2 times in tab button in a Windows machine, and you can see that automatically the code snippet came for printing a statement in our console. And I am going to enter beginning of the test as the statement. So we are having setup here, the attribute followed by a method. So now Visual Studio senses that this is the method that needs to be executed before each test. Okay, we'll try running this script. So if we run this test, you can see that we are given codes for opening the browser and navigating to this particular URL. So both methods contain that same content, so it will navigate to these two URLs. So I will slightly change the URL for our second method. So I will make it as www.amazon.com. Okay, so if I run this test, our expectation is that before each one of this test method, this particular line will get printed in our console. And when we run the test 2 times, the browser will pop up and it will navigate to 2 of these websites. So let's run our script. So the first browser popped up and it navigated to the first URL, and now you can see the second URL and it is going to the second website. Okay, now we have to see our output screen. So you can see the output by clicking on this method in the summary. I'm clicking here, you can see the test detail summary. At times if you move this and slide it here also the summary will appear. Also you can click on the open additional output for this result in order to view the output. So you can see that in the output, beginning of the test is printed once. This is for the first method, and in the second method also, if you click here, you can see beginning of the test is printed again. So before each one of our tests, this statement got printed, because as I said, like every time before picking our method, this will first go and execute this particular method and will come back to our test method. Okay, now moving back to our test, we can look into TearDown now. So I'm just copying this thing. You can either paste it TearDown beneath your test methods, or you can even paste it here. Whichever way it will work, such that it will get executed after our test method, each one of the test method. Okay, I'm going to change the method name also. You can give whichever method name you want. The only thing is that at the end of the test, this should get executed. Okay, you can see that end of the test being marked here by me. So now what happens is, like, it will first go to the setup, then it will go to our test method, first test method, then the teardown will get executed, then again it will go to setup, then the second method will get executed, and it will come back to teardown. So before each one of our test method, before and after, these two methods will get executed. Okay, now in order to understand that, I will show you another thing which is called debugging the test. So far we ran the test, but now we can see how to debug the test. So in order to debug the test, what you have to do is, like, you can right click and you can click on the debug button. Okay, so if you simply click on the debug button, what happens is that it will run the test, but in order to debug it, we want to put some debug points. So we can add some debug points. I'm giving a debug point here. Also I'm giving a debug point here. Okay, and also at the start of the test method 1 and test method 2 as well, I am giving a debug point. So now what happens is that if we debug now, if you run it, it will be the same, there is no difference. But if we debug now, what happens is that at each one of these breakpoints, the Visual Studio will get stopped, and once we give a go ahead, then only it will continue the execution. So what I'm going to do is, like, I'm going to right click here and going to debug our test. So I'm going to click on the debug button. So as expected, the browser will open twice and it will also navigate to. So as expected, see, you can we can see that it came to the setup first. The first statement will get executed now. So we can simply click continue now. So if we click continue, what happened? It went to our first method. So whichever one is marked as our test, right after executing this particular method, it came to our first method, which is marked as test. And now what happens? The browser will open, this particular code snippet will get executed, the browser will open and it will navigate to this particular URL. So if you click here continue, you can see that it is getting executed. You can also see the CPU usage, memory and all those things here. Also, if you are having any variables declared, you can see the value getting assigned. So all those things are important features of debug. We can look into all of this later. So understand that debug is one of the important features that will help us to troubleshoot the issues. And here you can see that it came to our TearDown now. So after executing, so first it went to setup, then it went to our first method, then it came to TearDown. Okay, now it will execute this particular thing. And if we click continue again, what happened? It again came to setup. So why it came? Because we are having one another method. Now the setup will get executed. Again it will go to the second method and then it will come to TearDown again. See, it came to second method. So if I click continue, this URL, we can see that it is getting to navigating to the web browser for that particular URL. And if we come back to the Visual Studio screen, you can see that it came to TearDown now. If we click continue, the test got completed. Okay, and we can see the same results in our output as well. So if you click on the first method and if you click on the open initial output result, you can see beginning of the test, end of the test, where we are printing something. And for the second method also the same thing happened. Okay, so this demonstrates how the setup and teardown attributes are working. Similar way, we can have something called OneTimeSetUp. With OneTimeSetUp, you can have a method that needs to be executed one time. As the name indicates, it is going to get executed at one time, and OneTimeTearDown, it will only execute once after all our test methods. So as an example, what I will do is, like, I am going to create a method to implement our Chrome driver. Okay, so I am going to give here driver. Okay, and inside the OneTimeSetUp, I am going to replace this code snippet from here to there, because you know that each time we don't have to initialize the Chrome driver, we only have to initialize it once. So I can simply give inside here driver equals new Chrome driver. So I declared an object with WebDriver as the type, and I am keeping it as global. And now I am giving here driver is equal to new Chrome driver in my OneTimeSetUp. Now I am going to copy this thing and I am going to give OneTimeTearDown as well. So replace it with OneTimeTearDown, and what we will give, we can give driver.quit here. Okay, so the method name also I have to change. You can give any method name as you wish, and you can run this code snippet. Now what happens? First, it will create an instance of the Chrome driver, and the browser will open up, and in the first method it will navigate to this particular URL, and in the second method it will navigate to this particular URL. Okay, so if you want to repeat this action every time, what you can do, you can declare this driver is equal to new Chrome driver inside the setup, and you can give driver.quit inside the teardown. But here what happens, it only get executed once before the method, and after all the method it will get quit, and only one browser instance will open. Why? Because here we are only doing it once, we are not doing it multiple times. So before going to run this, I'm going to add the test fixture as well. So ensure that you are also adding the test fixture, because for this one-time setup and one-time teardown you should have test fixture as well added. So I'm going to run this now. So very quickly it navigated the first URL and it came to the second URL and it got closed as well, and our test got completed. Okay, so I think with this you might have got an understanding regarding what are attributes which are used for our test design purpose, and this will help us to design our test based on our requirement. Like we can arrange our test such a way that we are not repeating the code anywhere. So this is the second exercise for you. You try creating a NUnit project and add attributes and navigate to the web page using the same. I will also give a link for the attributes from the official page of NUnit in the description. You can check it out and you can read more about attributes there, and you can also try using some other attributes if you wish to do the same. Try exploring whether setup and teardown can be added for methods alone. So do this as an assignment. You also try to do that to try to understand that whether it can be only added for a method. Once after completing your exercise, please share with us. You can copy the .cs file and you can send it to us, or you can even upload it in your Google Drive and can share the link with us. You can email it to learnvishnumandra@gmail.com. For any of your doubts or clarifications, you can comment below the video, or you can also email us. Now in the next video, we will talk about class, object and methods, and also regarding interface. So we are going to have a foundation created regarding methods, how to use it, what are the different types of methods available, and also regarding class and object. And finally, we will also discuss regarding interface. So it's going to be a very important video for those who are beginners. So ensure that you are watching that, wait for that. Hope you like the video. Kindly click on the like button and share the video. Also subscribe if you didn't subscribe the channel. Thank you so much for watching the video.